The Adirondack Hunt Podcast is brought to you in part by Seek Outside Tents. Seek Outside is an American company producing lightweight, versatile tents and titanium stoves. The Big Woods Bucks team and their friends have hunted the Adirondacks with Seek Outside hot tents and found that it's the best way to get back into the wilderness areas and have a remote hunt. With few roads and hiking trails the only way to access the extensive backcountry of the Adirondacks, your pack needs to be as light as possible. Seek Outside's lightweight tents and stoves enable you to get back there into the most remote country and hunt mature Adirondack bucks that likely have never seen a human being. Use code BWB at checkout on SeekOutside.com and get 10% off your Seek Outside gear. Good luck on your remote hunt in the big woods. Welcome to the Adirondack Hunt Podcast, a Big Woods Bucks production. In this podcast, the Big Woods Bucks crew from New York sits down and discusses all things hunting and even a little fishing within the blue line. 6 million acres of old-growth forest and few roads make the Adirondacks one of the most challenging places to hunt in the country. From Iroquois and Algonquin deer drives to the early days of Adirondack guiding, the team discusses the history, legends, and lore of these ancient mountains. Along the way, the team interviews top Adirondack hunters, from well-known legends to little-known local legends, homing in on what it takes to be successful in these unforgiving woods. Welcome back to the Adirondack Hunt Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Connor, Big Woods Bucks camera guy and CEO. Here with team member Mark Sharon.
Hello.
And we have a really special guest today. We have a forest ranger. You're the rank of lieutenant, right?
Yes, sir.
It's Ian Kerr. He's been a forest ranger for 20... I immediately forgot. You just told me. How long?
In my 21st year now.
In your 21st year. You're getting ready to retire.
A few more years.
If you don't get doged first, I guess, huh?
Come on.
This is one government employee you don't want to doge. Trust me. This guy's the man. So,
say that about everybody.
Yeah, legend. You're a legend. Everybody's a legend to me. So we're so happy to have Ian on. This guy. Oh, I have to mention this, otherwise everybody will be asking. I needed a beverage just because when you're talking for an hour, your throat gets dry and stuff. And I like the totemistic, like having a beer, but it's 10 o'clock in the morning, so I wanted the NA. We have NA beers here, so it's an NA beer.
I'm having a cup of coffee.
The freedom model has led me to this. This is my happiest freedom choice option.
Smart.
Move my phone out of here. So, we're super happy to have Ian because he's one of those local legends. I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but you really are a legend in my mind. I know I throw around the L word a lot, but Ian is the man, and not just because of his activities as a forest ranger, but he's a super buck slayer and has so much to teach.
Sometimes.
Most of the time, from what I can tell.
Oh, yeah.
But you also spend more time in the woods than your average person, that's for sure.
That's one thing that's, I think, not really a leg up, but it's a benefit. You're in the woods every day for work, and then when you're off work, you're right back in the woods for pleasure and play. So
yeah,
it's fun.
Yep.
So when you're doing your forest ranger responsibilities, you can't help but be scouting. It's not like you're like you're seeing sign.
It's instinctive, right? You're walking around either whatever you're looking for, illegal camps or on a search or on a forest fire, and little things stick out. Scrapes or rubs or old runways, and you get to see a lot of the country that way.
Yeah. So where are you from originally?
Originally from a little town called Greenwich over in Washington County.
Right.
That's where I grew up.
So medium woods is what you grew up on?
Yeah. It was still at that point, southern zone, and I didn't really hunt much there though. I spent, ever since I was probably old enough to walk, was up at my family's place in Lewis County, western edge of the Adirondacks.
Oh, all right.
Oh, okay.
So we had a lot of property up there, and that was, hunting and fishing, and we had a few hundred acres with, just down the street was in between Old Forge and Branningham Lake was the big wilderness or wild forest section, Adirondack there, and ton of acreage, and that's where I grew up and cut my teeth hunting. And
that's wicked good.
Nice.
Good country.
Yeah. So we did, starting off little with sitting on watches and deer drives, and then slowly escalated into tracking.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then so you went to Wanakina for your forest ranger training.
So I went to when I went to college. I went to Delhi College for a few years, and I went to Wanakina, the ranger school, and then back down to Syracuse. Got a few degrees, and then I became a ranger in 2004. and then started off on Long Island for a few years, and then down in the Catskills, Delaware County for a few years, and then spent majority of my time up here in Hamilton County area.
And you have some family history with the forest ranger service, right?
I do.
So.
My grandfather was a ranger back in '47, and his grandfather was a fire warden back in the early 1905, 1907 area.
That's cool. So some real Adirondack legacy there.
Yep. So that's made my.
So what year did you? Yeah. What year did you come up and become the ranger around here?
2010, 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, right around that area. So I've been here 14, 15 years.
Nice. Yeah. And what's your range that you oversee?
Oh man, I cover one of the biggest areas in the state. We cover Hamilton County, would be all the way from like the Old Forge Inlet border through Racket Lake, Blue Mountain, Indian, up towards Long Lake. And then you got, obviously Speculator down south, out west towards Poland and Herkimer County line.
It's like the whole Adirondack Park.
Wells, Benson, Hope. And then we cover, my area covers all of Fulton County as well. So
wow.
Yeah,
it's 2,600 square miles.
That's gigantic.
And then just the state land alone, I think 1.1 million acres of public property.
Right.
Wow.
So it's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, that's huge. So what does your typical day look like as a forest ranger?
A little bit different now for the past 3 years that I'm a lieutenant, but
more managing rather than.
It's not really. I'm still field lieutenant, so I still get out in the field. I still get to go all my searches, all the rescues, all the fires, everything that you can think of. I still go to. I just, oversee kind of the whole operation. But every day's different. You're either on a 4-wheeler, in a helicopter, in a boat, on a snowmobile, whatever it may be. But every day's different.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Team member Mark Sharon here. A lot of you know that I've been coaching people with addictions for more than 36 years. Well, today we have an exciting announcement to make. While Michelle and I will continue to personally coach people as we always have, we're now providing a training course for those of you out there who might want to become a certified Freedom Model coach. This new coaching certification course is available to those with established coaching practices, those who are psychologists or psychiatrists or therapists, or anyone who is looking to get into the field of helping people with addictions to solve their problem for good. If you would like to get on the applicant list, email me directly at info@thefreedommodel.org. Again, here's that email address, info@thefreedommodel.org. We look forward to your interest and potential of working together to change the way people across the world are helped with addictions. Take care.
So I want more ranger stories, but I think we ought to get right into the hunting first.
I like hunting.
It's good. Hunting's good.
He's a very good hunter.
He's a really good hunter. So I met Ian, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was during COVID. I had called you on the phone and asked you about remote tent hunting.
I didn't know who you were. I saw a number come up from New York City. And I'm like, who is this?
You're like, who's this city slicker?
Yeah. But I'm here to help everybody out. I don't care where you're from.
No, Ian was the man. He was super generous with the information because I didn't know about Seek Outside and lightweight hot tenting. And I was going to hike back like a giant wall tent. So I was asking Ian for tips, and he's like, I do remote stuff. He's like, why don't you just get a Seek Outside? I was like, oh, do you have one? He's like, I have 6.
I think we got like 8 now, but a lot of them. But we've been running Seek for probably close to 15 years or so. But
yeah.
No kidding. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's like, he got me into it, and that sparked my interest. And I didn't actually make it happen until this past season, but that was our first interaction. I was like, oh my God, and that's really cool. I got to try that. And then I ran into you in the woods like a couple years later. I think it was during COVID.
Yeah.
And then I had like a 22 with me. I was going like shed. It was like during COVID, so there was nothing to do. I wasn't really working. I was working from home, from camp, and I was just going out. I had like a 22 with me. I was going shed hunting, or I was going to shoot a squirrel or whatever. And you're like, we talked for a while. You show me your buck picks. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was nothing malicious. We got in buck
deal.
talking and Seek Outside. I'm like, we hunt up here quite a bit, and there's some big bucks to be had in the backcountry, so in the big woods here. And
that kind of
real nice animals.
And that blew my mind, and then especially talking to you about how you got them. And this is so true. I find this is the case, especially in the southern Adirondacks, as we've discussed before. Like, you talk to a lot of really good buck hunters, like Ian, and it's almost you've killed all your big bucks still hunting. Is that right? I
would say 90, 95% of my bucks
are
still hunting because we shoot them early, and we don't. Way it's been is the snow hasn't been hitting until later in the season, so I'm not gonna I'm not going to wait all year
Yeah.
for that snow to come that may come or may not come to get on a track and run one down and kill them. But,
Right.
I mean, every day you get in the woods is just one step closer to killing a big buck. So,
Yeah.
I would say 95% of the bucks all been killed still hunting on bare ground.
Yeah, I feel like the last 2 weeks of the season we reliably get snow, but like you said, you're not gonna not hunt, all of early November.
Why not be in the woods every day you can?
Yeah, exactly.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah, please,
Just
Mark.
really quick. What would be the buck that is your favorite buck of all time in the Adirondacks?
A buck that I've killed.
Yeah, buck that you've killed, or not. I don't. Yeah, but maybe a buck that you killed and then one that you didn't. If it ranks.
That got away,
So there's I guess would be a two-part story. Like I have a real good history of November 11th. That seems like a phenomenal day for me. So we were in the backcountry, maybe 6 miles in, with it set up in a teepee, and we had been still hunting. Me and my good hunting buddy side by side, and we were a few feet off from each other, and he'd take the 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock position, I'd take 12 to 9. And we'd just come up over a ridge. It just started raining. And I stepped to the left, and at the same time I stepped to the left, a buck poked his head out between two big boulders. And we both looked at each other, and I snapped up and shot him, and he ran 20 yards. And I'm a big, beautiful 8-point. And
Can we show pics?
yeah, you
Are
can.
you sure?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah. So I shot him at, say 12:10 in the afternoon, and got back, dragged him back to the interior camp. We ended up packing him out. My buddy still stayed in the camp. I got out to the house, and it's kind of a sad story, but my wife's grandfather actually passed away on November 11th. I didn't know. I was in hunting, but the time he passed away was within a minute of the time I had shot that big buck. So it's just
so many synchronicities.
Yeah,
like that in
it's
nature. He has
crazy.
one
And
of
then
those too.
I had showed you a picture of a buck that I say I missed, but he was 155 inches.
Whew.
He was a big mainframe 10-point, maybe a 12, but I'd sneaking through some pucker brush there, some balsam and spruce, and I had must have knocked my bolt up just a little bit, and I poked my head out into the open hardwood, and there was a doe standing at me 5-6 feet away. And there was that 155 looking at me about 8 feet away. And I went to shoot from the hip. That's it.
Nothing.
Click,
Jeez.
nothing.
What gun were you using?
So using that Kimber. So I had it on that half safe.
Oh,
so you
yeah,
can still
yeah.
move the bolt back and forth.
Right, yeah.
So that buck took off. And I never saw him later on. I got him on camera maybe a month later, but never saw him again. But I went back to the same spot next day. And that was November 10th, the day I, kind of missed that buck. November 11th, I snuck in there, and at 7:45 in the morning, working over a ridge, just about the same spot, a beautiful 9-point, probably 140-inch 9-point, stepped out chasing a doe on this ridge, and he took off, and I shot, killed him, and he was, brow tines, 9-inch brow tines on him, 8-inch brow tines, just a huge buck.
That's awesome.
And he was 199, a little over 199 pounds. We got him out, and that was November 11th again. I killed that buck. So it's just,
that's cool.
There's been some phenomenal buck stories.
I mean, peak rut, I guess most people would put peak rut on that. It's like that.
Yeah,
time
some
period.
areas, I mean, I think it depends on which area of the Adirondacks you're in. Some days are really good, like on the 18th. Everybody has their own areas they hunt and which times are better, but I would say most of my bucks been killed between November 5th and November 11th. It's like a 6-day period that I've killed some big ones.
Nice. Now, you showed me a bunch of pics of really big bucks, and which is awesome, so inspiring. Did you have a period, I'm asking as a rather new hunter, did you have a period where you were shooting smaller, like 2.5-year-olds and consistently in the big woods, and then you kind of upped your game, or did you just say, I want to kill big bucks and go after them exclusively?
I guess it's all about the story that you want to relay or you want to live.
Yeah.
I have shot, some smaller bucks, 2.5-year-olds, and they presented an opportunity, and I was either on running for a long time or it's getting close to the end of the season. I, took that buck, but it's, I kind of, again, it doesn't matter. I don't want to put anybody down on, size of the bucks they shoot. Any big woods bucks they shoot, that's great. Good for them.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. I have tried to pass up some now, the 2.5, 3.5-year-old bucks and, focusing more on that 4.5. And I did that for maybe again, probably 14, 15 years of shooting more than, 3.5-year-old, 4.5-year-old bucks. And then I think I told you this year, I kind of went a different way. It was not even rack size at this point. It was either a really good story or that 200-pounder I'm chasing. So this past year, I saw some big ones. I mean, we're talking 125 plus into the 130-inch range. And, 18, 20 yards, getting on a bareground track and catch them in a scrape or something and letting them go, back out. And you could just tell their body was not that 200-pound mark.
So we ask these questions of everybody, especially about still hunting. High or low, transition, like what's your still hunting technique? How quickly are you moving? Like, you know what I'm saying?
There's a difference. I think some people get caught up. I still hunt, but they're covering 10 miles a day.
We talk about that.
Like, you do?
It's still hunting is so subjective.
It is. That's not really still hunting at that point. I mean,
that's what I do. I go like 10 miles and I'm just bumping and, what did you call
running, gunning?
Running and gunning.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's running and gunning. There's different. I mean, you can have a mix of all different tactics throughout the day. Yeah. I mean, there's sometimes I run and gun if you're going through open territory where I don't see a lot of buck sign or buck tracks or buck activity. But then there's also times that I'm going to get low and slow on those transition edges and, hunt hard, hunt slow, really keep your eyes peeled and wait for something to come.
Do you prefer being high in those transition zones, because a lot of times I call it the Crown of Thorns on top of a mountain, something over 3,000 feet, you get into that sprucey stuff. Do you like being up near that transition zone between hardwood and that Crown of Thorns, or do you like being in the lower?
Crown of Thorns. So
I'm getting a little bit older.
Testament.
I mean, I'm 42. I'm not that old, but I'm getting older where I've crawled through enough pucker brush and dog hair spruce. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So I'll go low. But again, it depends. This year was different. Sometimes I stay high, but we had like zero rain this year.
Right.
It was a very dry year, so a lot of it was down low where the water was.
Yes.
Creeks, creek bottoms, or Vlies or anything with water is where I mainly spent most of my time because there was not a water this year.
Yeah.
So when I first met you, we talked about how we had both hunted a particular mountain in the southern Adirondacks, which was like 3,200 feet tall.
Yep.
And was there a time where you were really spending time at the top of that? Because I know when I hunted the top of that, it was the Crown of Thorn. I mean, it was just balsam and fir. So
right at the tip top, or did it transition out on the very top?
The ledges actually had the most sign.
Okay.
So were you getting up that high, though? Because I always talk about this, too. So viewers, if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But I read Larry Benoit's book, and he always says go to the top of a 3,000-footer. So that's all I did for the first, 3 or 4 years I hunted. I was like, I got to get to the top of a 3,000-footer. So do you do that? I mean, do you get all the way up there?
Yeah. I'll go to mountaintops just to see what's there. I mean, there's some places where it's not, you got oak tops or maple tops, whatever it may be. But the higher you go up, you're going to see some more of that transition edge. And then sometimes it's the opposite. There's, balsam and spruce and everything right on the tip of the mountain. Then it transitions a little bit lower into that. But as you know, I mean, what's going to be your farthest shot in that spruce and that thick? I don't know, 2 feet,
I know.
3 feet if you can see.
Yeah. It's terrible.
So again, I think deer are more likely to travel unpressured, travel on that transition edge where they still have that cover, but they're not.
Yeah.
They're
I like
making
those
it hard
ledges
for themselves.
Yeah.
And the ledges are good because we've had a big buck where, we're in that seek and climbed out of bed in the morning and it was cold and snowy and a blizzard. And we'd worked up this side of the ridge. Snow was blowing right into the cliff edge. So we had the wind at our back, but it was the only way to get up there. And we didn't think we were going to see anything. And, me and my buddy are just pounding through this beach and, knocking snow off. And we look up and there's this rack buck sitting on a cliff edge, looking at us, watching us come up this mountain. He was just getting pounded with snow, and he's just bright white because he's covered, and he took off, and he went. And there was no seeing that deer for the rest of the day. Yeah, you can get on a track, but it was blizzard, and you could still track him, but deer,
you got to run.
This deer did not like us. And he did not stop.
And
we traveled him through another mountain, and he was not.
Yeah.
He was not having it. So whatever.
I'm curious if you had... if you read Larry Benoit's book when you were starting out, or Hal's books.
I have Larry's book.
Yeah.
And it's on my shelf. And I have Hal's book.
Yeah.
Set on my shelf. And anybody that knows me that's a friend of mine will probably know that that book's going to sit there for another 30, 40, 50
Not a
years.
big reader. You're too busy, if anything.
I'm not a reader.
Well, we're coming out with an audio book version of Hal's books. So.
Well, see, There you go.
While you're cruising around.
Yeah. Because, I mean, everybody's busy. I mean, there's a few minutes in your day where you can sit down and read, but I'm always doing something else.
No, you're like
woods or cutting wood or
Yeah,
whatever.
the
There's always
busiest-
time to read,
busiest
but it's
person.
just not my favorite thing to do. And I'm sure I like listening to stories. I think books are great. I know I could pick up a ton of good information out of Larry's book and out of Hal's book, and then I'm excited. There's days I sit, I'm like, I'm gonna get home, I'm gonna read his book. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I get home and I don't do it.
Yeah.
So there's days, yes, I really want to read the book because I know I want to pick up a lot more information, but also storytelling.
Yeah.
The amount of knowledge you can pick up from storytelling or listening to people's stories, because I can talk about big buck hunting, but I like listening to people's stories.
As Hal always says, it's the original way to convey information.
That's
Cavemen
right.
sat around and talked about their hunt and passed on information that way.
Because I can read a book page, and same thing when I was in school.
Yeah.
I turned the next page and I forgot what I read about.
Yeah.
So
It's
me
best.
listening to somebody, and I don't care if they have a year of experience. I don't care if they have 50 years of experience. I'll listen to the story because, you look at a little kid, he catches the biggest fish on the lake because he doesn't overthink things.
Yeah.
Or he
Oh,
goes out
so
behind his
true.
house and sits in some random tree and
Yeah.
he kills the biggest buck because he doesn't overthink things.
Yeah, it's true, and I feel like I don't struggle with it, but I often think about me being newer, and I'm slowly not becoming newer. I'm slowly becoming pretty experienced, but I'm like, what do I have to share? And I'm like, well, all these foibles I've been through, like missing bucks and stuff, like that's good information for anybody, really. I mean, we talked about a pretty famous hunter who had struggled with the target panic that I had with that big buck in Pennsylvania this past season. So, I mean, everybody has something to offer, and it's a bit of a cliche, but you learn something every time you go into the woods, and you learn something from anybody who's hunting.
You do. Everybody has a story to share, and every story has a bit of knowledge in it. And you don't know when that knowledge is going to come back to you, but there could be a day it's like, hey, so I see a buck track do this, or I see a scrape or whatever. And you remember 10 years ago, some guy said, well, the buck was in the scrape, and all of a sudden he took a hard left through the swamp. And it's like, well, looking at the ground here, and that's what he did. He went in the swamp. So I think stories do come back around to help you out eventually.
I think there's also something to be said for ways that people learn. Like, I know in my case, I am a reader. I'm a writer. I've written books, and it can be problematic. It can be problematic because what I realized is that I have to learn something in a big way. Like, I have to go into the big woods, and for 9 years, I just ran around running and gunning, missing deer, missed like 12 giant bucks. I mean, it was crazy. And I had to collect all that information, right? And then all the years after that, it all sifted and sorted itself out. Now, I didn't know that was my process. It took me a dozen years to get successful, and then really, really, and then I see other people who don't read, don't overthink it, and have really consistent success from the beginning. That's just not the way that I don't learn that way. I see a macro view, then I have to reverse engineer it. And it's harder, I think. But in the end, I feel like we all get to the same thorough spot.
Yep. Everybody just gets there in a different. Everybody has their own road, their own path.
If you stick
eventually
with
you're going to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dedication. If you're successful, successful businessman, the successful entrepreneur, whatever you're doing, if you're a successful person, you've obviously put in the time, the dedication. You're a hard worker, and the same thing comes to buck hunting. Yes, you can go out. Somebody that doesn't do a lot, go out in the woods and shoot a big buck, but do it consistently.
Right.
It takes practice. It takes patience. Patience is a big one, and also, that positive mental attitude.
Did you have years where you struggled with the attitude? You told an interesting story from when you were. So, by the way, we recorded this episode like a year ago, and then the sound came out cruddy. But we got a brand new mixer. It's going to sound good.
Yeah.
But you told an interesting story from when you were growing up. I don't know if you remember the one I was talking about, but sort of a lesson in hunting ethics and positive mental attitude.
We talk about that. I'll go into the story in a second, but I think I texted you before the season even started. I got deployed to North Carolina this year for the hurricane.
Yeah, that's right.
So I missed almost all of muzzleloader season.
Yeah.
I was down there beginning. It was 3 weeks. Beginning of October. Got sent down to
floods.
Asheville,
Yeah.
rebuilding the city,
Terrible.
and search rescue.
Right.
Just everything.
Yeah, you were showing me the pictures of the devastation.
I was texting him like, Marty, I'm already worried I'm not going to shoot a big buck. I'm not going to have the time.
Mm-hmm.
So letting that doubt creep in your mind. I mean, deer season hadn't even started for me yet, and I've already got that inkling of doubt in my mind. So yeah, it's a hard thing to get over. So anyways, about the story, let's say, legal age. I was of legal age when I started hunting.
Yeah. Statute of limitations is run. Don't worry, Ian.
Legal age of hunting.
So, as your attorney, I can tell you you're safe.
Shooting at deer. Yeah, I missed some deer growing up. I wounded a couple bucks growing up. Never found them.
Yep.
Rushing shots.
Yep.
And then you're on top of being a kid. Now you're getting impatient. When's it going to be my turn? When am I going to shoot this buck?
Right.
Why can't I shoot a buck? Why is everybody else around me shooting a buck?
Right.
And at that point, it wasn't about deer hunting. It was about killing a buck, which is not deer hunting, right?
That's so true, dude.
Being in the woods, enjoying your time, going after that buck is deer hunting.
That's
if you get the kill
that's
shot,
the trophy.
You kill that buck, that's the trophy.
Yeah.
That's the best part of it. And,
the experience is like, the trophy. We talk about that all the time.
We'd sit on watch one day. I was a young kid, and buck came over a hill, snowstorm, came with some does. I didn't have a ethical shot. He was running. I don't know if my dad was past him on the drive. I don't know where he was. I didn't shoot that buck. Glimpse of him. Maybe I could have. Don't know. I didn't do it.
Wow. That's amazing.
So deer run past me along this little creek bottom up through a ridge, and bang, gun goes off. I'm like, you know what I should have done was like, that's awesome. One of our hunting group got a buck. What did I do? Man, I can't believe it. I didn't shoot that buck. Yeah. Somebody else shot it. Somebody else in our group shot that buck.
Yeah.
Didn't move until, it was time to get off watch. Came up. My uncle shot a beautiful buck.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, I could have shot that buck. And I was a brat. I was a sore loser about it. And my dad yanked me aside. He's like, that's not how we act. This is deer hunting. It's not about killing the buck. It's about being happy for everybody. I don't care about the size of the buck. I don't care who shot it. You're part of this hunting group. You're going to be happy for people. That's not how we do things here.
Yeah.
He's like, if you could have shot it, you should have shot it. You didn't. No more excuses. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
That is an amazing lesson at a young
Shook
age.
my uncle's hand.
That's a great lesson.
Okay, congratulations. That's awesome.
Right.
Sat around the campfire at night.
Right.
Hung out, talked stories. And I think my attitude changed big time that night. It was a scolding,
Yeah, but a formative moment for you.
Yeah.
In your hunting career about learning about how to manage other people's success. And we deal with that writ large with social media. And I think
that's hard for a lot of people.
Like you said, you get that panic, like everybody's getting one but me. And
it happens to a lot of people.
Yeah. And you just got to fight that. And I find myself thinking that. I'm just like, calm down. Life couldn't get better. I got a beautiful camp here. I get to spend time in the outdoors. It doesn't get any better than that. I don't need a buck.
You don't. You don't. It's nice to shoot one. That's the
right.
trophy. It's great to shoot a buck.
Right.
But being out in the woods, there's a lot of different things. That positive mental altitude. You're out in the woods. Everything's going great. And then you're like, I got work tomorrow. I got to do this. What happens? Your focus is not on that deer hunting. Your focus is on something else.
I struggle with that too.
And then what happens?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's that big buck right
right
there,
there.
and he's gone.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times that's happened to me over the years. It's like, I got to do this. I've got this. We got this pending.
Right.
Got to get it done.
Right.
And there goes a buck.
Right.
And he's gone.
Yeah.
Other times you're like, after the first day, sleeping in your teepee or seek outside, it's like everything gets better the day after. And it's every day you spend in the woods, things get better. Enjoy the time.
Right.
Enjoy your time out there in the woods. And eventually it'll come.
So I want to ask you about that too, because I feel like Seek Outside, these lightweight hot tents have been a game changer in terms of just getting further back, deeper into the backcountry. Age class of bucks is going up the further you get back. At least that's the conventional wisdom. But I think you have an even interesting take on that, because I sort of thought of the Seek Outside tent, and I got the Red Cliff, which was I think they advertised it as
I got one of those.
an 8-person.
6.
A 6, which is like
a little smaller than 6, but it still can.
And I was thinking of it as in lieu of a wall tent, but you made an interesting point to me this past season, because I was like, where should I set up? And we talk about mobile hunters now a lot in the archery space, where you have a climber or a saddle, and you're not just in your stand for the season, you're moving around based on what the deer are doing. And you'd made an interesting point to me, which is don't commit to one spot. Have 4 or 5 and check them out and spend a couple of days there. And you know what I mean? So
what do people do? People move.
Yeah, right.
What do bucks do?
Right.
Bucks move.
Right.
You may have shot big bucks there before, but they might not be there that year.
Right.
So to put all your eggs in one basket and set up one camp where you think there's going to be big bucks, you can, but you might be wasting your time.
Right.
It's all about scouting. You don't have to scout, but every day you're in the woods hunting, I like going to a different spot.
Yeah.
bouncing around.
Yeah.
When I start to get a sign, I'll focus a little bit more on that spot. Then, I have one of the originals. It's Seek Outside Backcountry 2 shelter.
Huh.
And it's
I don't even think they advertise that anymore.
it's been long gone, but it, with my titanium stove and just that, it's like everything's less than 5 pounds for the stove, the tent stakes, the center pole, the tent itself. I'll throw it in my pack and bounce around.
That's what I want. I want to get a lighter setup so I can even get even more mobile. Or it's just enough room for me and my pack and my gun and
that's all
the
I care
stove.
about. And then if we go, with our hunting group, we'll just bring the 6-man or the 8-man or whatever the situation dictates. We'll bring whatever
shelter
we need. But
then you split the weight.
yeah, then we split the weight.
Yeah, it works.
I'm not the biggest guy in the world. I don't like carrying a lot of weight, so the lighter, the better.
But you probably have the best legs of anybody. I mean, spending all the time you do in the woods, it's
I like
crazy.
being in the woods. That's the best part about the job.
This podcast is brought to you in part by Minus 33. Minus 33 is a wool and textile manufacturer based in New Hampshire that is producing top-notch merino wool base layers and socks. Layering your clothes when you're hunting the big woods is key. As we've discussed on the podcast, the conditions and distances involved in hunting the Adirondacks mean that you have to take your gear seriously. You can't afford to not have the best gear. And that's particularly true of your base layers. Minus 33 long johns should be an essential part of your gear system to keep you warm while you're out in the Adirondack backcountry. As for socks, I've tried dozens of pairs of wool socks over the years, and Minus 33 Heritage socks are by far the comfiest. If you go on the Minus 33 website, you can read about the care that they've taken to create these socks. And once you put them on, the difference is obvious. They are perfect for long days hoofing it up and down mountains in the Dacks. So get prepped for the next season now by clicking on the link in the description and getting stocked up on Minus 33 merino base layers and socks. Happy hunting. Hi, Brian Connor, host of the Adirondack Hunt Podcast here. We're excited to announce our partnership with the most respected and recognized land company in the Northeast, Christmas and Associates Land Company. Owners Dan and Mark Christmas are two upstate New York natives with deep roots in the Adirondacks and Tug Hill Plateau, as well as two of the best big woods hunters you'll meet. Whether it's a newly constructed camp surrounded by state wilderness or a comfortable family getaway, their team of experienced land guides are the best at matching folks with the perfect land track at an affordable price and a simple, easy process. They even provide financing. Christmas Land Guides will provide full land tours using ATVs, snowmobiles, and even snowshoes so that you can scout every acre of your property. In addition to finding just the right tract, Christmas Land and camp staff can help you construct the camp you've always dreamed of using our in-house master builders. Every camp is overbuilt, carefully located, and rock solid. Whether you're a first-time buyer or an experienced landowner, Mark, Dan, and all the land and camp staff will strive to make your search a quality, once-in-a-lifetime experience. For over 30 years, no one in New York State has provided more big-buck properties and family hunting camps to hundreds of folks who love the woods than Christmas and Associates Land Company. Dan, Mark, and the rest of the Christmas family remain dedicated to wise land conservation and treating everyone they meet like family. Always available 7 days per week, unless there's fresh tracking snow. Contact Land and Camps by calling 1-800-229-7843 or visit them on Facebook or go to landandcamps.com. Hey everyone, Brian Connor here. I want to tell you about Performance Shooting in Constable, New York. Contact owner Mike McDonald for any of your rifle or ammunition needs. When calling, use the code BWB for discounts for new buyers and ask about their Browning BAR custom carbines while you're at it. Call Mike at 518-483-5241 and get your season started now. With over 100 years of combined experience, Hardee's Electric can satisfy any electric need you may have. Based out of Amsterdam, New York, Hardee's will work on projects big and small, commercial, residential, and industrial. If you have electric work you need done, go to the experts at Hardee's Electric. Call 518-842-1074. All right, we're back talking to Ian Kerr, Forest Ranger of 21 years and legendary big buck hunter. I
don't know about legendary. I'm going to tell you, I think
I even call the viewers legends. That's my new sign off. See all you legends later.
I mean, you've seen some of the bucks I shot, but I mean, I would say I'm probably pretty average.
You're not average, dude.
I don't know. There's some every small town's got their big buck hunter, and some of our rangers are just.
But I think that you're in that
top tier. Dude.
You're in that top tier.
I just like hunting.
Yeah,
it shows. So what do you use for a rifle primarily?
I switched quite a bit.
Yeah.
We used to run my dad's, well, starting off, had a little 20 gauge,
Yeah.
single action slug.
There you go.
Nice.
And graduated to 30-30, ran that for a while.
Nice.
And then I had my dad's 280. I shot my first big buck with that.
Nice.
Is that a bolt?
Yeah, bolt action, Remington 700 mountain rifle.
Okay. Yep.
BDL.
Yep.
Yep, shot my first big buck with that. And then we switched over to a Savage 308 bolt action.
Yeah.
Cut the barrels off, recrowned them, remolded the stock, made them like 4.5 pound guns.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lightweight.
Yeah.
Killed a lot of real big bucks with that gun.
Nice.
And then my dad and I ended up getting matching Kimber Adirondacks in 6.5 Creedmoor.
Nice. You got that here today?
I do.
Here, I'll grab it. Hang on.
okay.
Yeah, they're cool guns. I looked at those. Yeah.
They're a real good gun.
Yeah.
So I know it's not the Remington 7600. It's not a semi-auto. It's not.
So why aren't you using a pump action rifle? I thought you were a Big Woods Bucks fan.
I am, but I'm 5'10" and I have short little arms, and that
enough.
gun does not fit me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a
So,
sweet gun.
It's all about finding the gun that fits you.
Yeah.
I've run some semi-autos, but this gun is the grip on it when it gets wet. It's just still sticks to your hands. It's like 4.5 pounds.
Oh, yeah. Balance.
And it's
pretty good.
natural.
Yeah.
When it pops up on my shoulder,
Yep.
within the first 1/10 of a second, it's already on the deer, getting ready to crack a shot. So it's
Well, we were talking
being
about that.
comfortable is my biggest thing.
We were talking about that earlier, that you don't really even remember aiming. You get to a point where it's so familiar to you that there's just a secondary reaction that happens, and that everything just lines up. That's when you know a gun really, really fits you.
Yeah, and I didn't really realize that until the past few years. I think I started running this one in 2017, but that buck I shot 2 years ago, that 138, that just about broke 200. I mean, that's my game right now, is to shoot that 200-pound plus.
What did that weigh? 198.
199.2.
What date did
on.
you shoot that on? Was that the November 11th?
November 8th, 7th?
Yeah.
9th, I don't know,
If you
somewhere.
got him in muzzleloader, he would have been there.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
most of my bucks, I would say 95% of those bucks have been between 190 and 200. 199.8, 199.2.
So we
For
have,
real?
so
97.
we have those
Yeah.
down here in the Southern Adirondacks.
A lot. I mean, this one I shot this year was on the smaller side, but he was
Yeah.
November 20th, dressed out 187.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a giant.
That
He's
is a
big
giant.
buck.
Those are
Yeah,
giants.
so that's, try to switch a little bit out of the rack size, and I really want to get that 200-pounder.
That
It's going to be
weight.
hard, but
Did you ever
I mean,
hunt
it can
Maine?
be done. No.
You could skip it. Just kidding, Hal.
No, I want to do a New York 200-pounder. I
Yeah.
think that's.
Yeah.
No, that's way more of an
I
accomplishment.
wanted to shoot a buck over 140 inches. I got that, and then I wanted to shoot a buck over 200 pounds, and that's what I'm waiting for.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
All right, real quick, while we're on the topic of guns, Mark, you got something you want to talk about too?
Oh, yeah. So we have a sponsor, and that's Performance Shooting. This is their special edition Browning bar. It's a 308, 18-inch barrel, and I'll be running that this year. I've owned, I think, 3 or 4 of these now, and they're an amazing gun. 6.5 pounds. I got the Skinner 1x4 on it. Fantastic scope for me, and I know everybody that gets them loves them. So yeah, I got to give the plug, but I only sponsor or talk about something that I actually use. So you'll see me kill a buck with this.
It's nice, good. I like that.
Yeah, Cerakoted,
Yeah.
synthetic. Everything is sealed up properly for the Adirondacks. Yeah, it's a great gun.
It's a real nice setup.
I want to ask you one final thing. I don't think we'll do another episode on the Ranger stuff, but I am curious about if you have any tips about where to set up a remote camp. I mean, where you see the sign. It's funny because where you'd kind of given me a lead on where to go, and well, folks will see in my video from this year that I missed a buck. I didn't even get a shot off, but it was like the buck was literally bedded down 40 yards from where I set up my tent, which was at your recommendation. I set it up there.
I think I told you that before season, that right outside your teepee, you're going to have bucks.
You did
like
say
within
that.
30, 40
and I was
yards of your
still
tent.
hunting my way right up, and I was literally creeping so slow, wet leaves, perfect conditions, and I'd see the tent, and I'm like, oh, there's the tent. I'll just go. Jump.
That's when it happens.
Like 2
Oh, it
seconds
does.
later.
Don't-
Like still hunt your
Don't
way.
screw around
to the
until you're
tent.
actually in the tent, unloaded your rifle, because within 100 yards of your
Yeah.
teepee. Well, why you set up there? The same thing with trail cameras. Why do you have a trail camera set up? because there's deer there.
Yeah.
Why do you have a teepee set up? Because there's bucks in
There's
the
deer
area,
there. Yeah.
right? And I mean, it seems like an easy lesson or something that everybody would think of, but how many times you have a camera and you're like, oh, I'm just going to run and check it quick.
Yeah.
And you bump a big buck and you're
Yeah.
like, well, why did I do that? Well,
Yeah.
because the camera's there for a reason.
Yeah.
There's bucks there. That's why I have it there.
So,
But setting up teepees,
yeah.
I want to be near water.
Right.
So
For your own purposes.
yeah, for own purposes. I want to be at least on a kind of flat spot. No drainages around, so nothing's running through my tent.
Right.
Out from under the, I know it's sometimes nice to be under balsams and hemlocks, but once you get a lot of big snow, that stuff starts crashing down and bend your stovepipe on that seek and,
Yep.
drop a lot of moisture in the tent, stuff smashing the tent all night, and it just gets annoying. So out in open hardwood, it's a little bit better. And then country-wise, wherever I see a lot of sign, I want to back off a little bit. Hopefully on that downwind side where my scent's not blowing into all that buck sign. The prevailing winds, I guess I should say.
Should be from west to east.
Should be either the north or west or northwest, whatever. But so that's why I want to be a little bit tucked away from that, but enough where I have easy access to my hunting grounds.
I have a quick question. So how far, regulation-wise, do we have to be away from running water? Or?
150 feet from any trail, road, or body of water.
Okay. And then what was the other question I had? Shoot.
Quickly, in terms of doing your business, because you can mess up a site fast, are you digging like a nice big like multi-use cat hole?
Yeah.
Taking a shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Are you just digging a really big hole and just using that over and over again? Yeah.
Yeah, and then, covering everything up when you're gone and away from, obviously water sources and your tents and, yeah.
And of course, leave no trace, folks.
Oh,
Yeah, what you pack in, pack out, because
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest things we find is people just trashing their interior campsites. We'll do patrols from town to town. We'll just walk through the woods, check out some of these interior camps, and some of them are pretty trash. And it's it's public land. It's there for everybody's use. It's not just your use. And
Yeah, don't be a
you can't
bum.
just- You
Clean
can't
it
just
up.
treat it like your house or where you live, or if you do live like that, you got to respect it.
And how many days, just for the audience, if you're in one spot, do you need a permit?
Anything more than 3 nights, you'd need a
nights.
permit, and anything more than 8 or 9 people, I think it is 9 people. Whatever,
Got it.
But
And you just call your local ranger to get a permit.
yep, just call your local ranger, whoever covers that
Right.
that township. They'll give you a permit.
All right. Well, I got to ask you about this because I think this is just a cool relic of, like, I don't know if it's a relic, but, well, we've talked about this because I found this old cool remote camp, which was, like, falling down, and I sent you the waypoint because you're like, oh, I love that stuff. And I took, like, or an old lamp out of it.
Yeah.
But, like, that particular area used to be full of dozens and dozens of camps, I think. And then there still are a few people who camp back there.
Yeah.
But somebody told me, it might have been you, I was like, how do you check all this vast 200,000 acre wilderness? How do you check it for illegal camps? And somebody, I think maybe it was you, told me that on a cold morning you'd fly over it and see like smoke coming up from fires in the morning.
So a lot of times,
that
if
true?
we're like on a search or something, or if we have a training flight, you can see like on a cold morning, you can see smokes pop
Yeah.
up from,
And you're like,
15, 20
camp.
miles away, and you're
Yeah.
like, take a compass bearing on them.
Yeah.
And look at the ridges and look on your topo. You pretty much pop where they are.
Yeah.
And the same thing, climbing some fire towers
Yeah.
in the morning, early morning. Get up there before sunrise, and then wait till sunrise, and you can pick out a lot of smokes in the backcountry.
And
It's pretty cool to see, and they go straight up on those days.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I sense with you, just in our interactions, you're not out there to be the fun police. Ian, we won't get into it, but, I mean, we've had our fair discussion over the years of incidents that ended and people being deceased. So I think the Rangers really are here to protect us and make sure the resources being used well. They're not there to just bust your chops about.
We have a couple jobs. We have search and rescue. We have forest fire control, statewide law enforcement, and we still want to be the good guys of the woods. And we're not there to bust balls every day, but we need to. It's community interaction. As I was growing up, my grandfather always said, you got to be part of your community. People can come knock on your door. They got a fire. They got a missing kid. They've got this or that. And they want to be able to rely on you as that local ranger. And your local ranger has the knowledge of that woods too, and that's where they know the backbones of just about every part of their district. And I think that's what makes good rangers, being in the woods, knowing their area.
I just want to tell a quick story about a ranger. So very first time I guided 7 people up a mountain, I had a very experienced guy with me who was my mentor, and I was going to run outbounds for years, and we went up Marcy. October 21st. Get up halfway. It's pouring rain. We have no tents. We have tarps. We did it old-fashioned. This is old-school garbage equipment. We get halfway up. Ranger comes down and says, "Don't go up. We got a wicked storm coming in." And I'm like, ah. So we get to the top. The blizzard hits. The entire mountain turns to sheer ice. We can't get off the top. We got no tents. We're soaking wet. Luckily, at that point, I did grow up in the woods. And all these guys were city slickers. They had no idea. So they start panicking. I get everybody together. We spent 14 hours in a blizzard with, basically, we just were like cordwood, took the blankets and covered ourselves. And we survived. One kid who refused to get in a bag with another person got frostbite. But
it's not fun, is it?
Oh, dude, it was brutal. It was, we were going to die.
You talk about learning lessons.
Yeah, and it changed me.
Yeah.
Changed me. At that point, I recognize the value of experience.
Yeah, we've been on a lot of them where, you got off lucky, and a lot of them don't turn out that way, and that's you're stuck on the side of Marcy at 40 below, and
dude, it was
12,
brutal.
15 feet of snow. It's rough.
I saw a stat too and you wouldn't think this, but because so I saw a stat that said like 60% of search and rescues are for hunters, because you'd think it would just be newbies getting out of their element and on the high peaks like hikers, but. Is that right? I mean,
I don't know. I don't have the statistics in front of me. I mean, a lot of it comes down to inexperience, and a lot of things today rely on technology, and I think that's what a lot of people rely on is technology.
Like Onyx.
And it doesn't. I mean, Onyx is good. GPS is great.
But your phone craps out.
Anything craps out.
You got to know how to get out with a compass.
Compass.
Yeah.
Learning those good woodsmanship skills from the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pays off dividends in the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's funny. I was going to ask too about. You remember when I posted that pic of my tent with the leaves on the ground?
Yeah.
Everybody was like, giving me crap. And they weren't entirely wrong. I did light the bottom of the floor on fire. Yes. And it was like an epic drought, too. And I was like, oh, crap. I had to stamp it all out.
Cleaning 3-foot flammable material from your fire source.
Yeah, 3 feet. Okay, because I was going to ask, because I don't want to sweep, because some people, you need to sweep out the entire thing. I'm not going to sweep out all the leaves because they're insulation. Yeah. They keep me from, lying on the wet ground.
They dry out.
I clear out. I mean, I burnt a hole in my sleeping bag at night, and seek outside door. Those old ones, they slide off and fell on my sleeping bag and burnt that up. And it's just like little things. It's keep your sleeping bag away, keep all the leaves away.
Yeah, just good tips.
Yeah, because eventually it's going to happen. The worst thing is, that titanium. And especially your coals, you're hold coals for a while, and you stir some stuff up in the morning for your morning cup of coffee. Then you go out on the trail for the day, and God knows what could happen if an ember fell out and nothing is cleared.
Yeah.
Probably going to lose all your stuff.
Yeah, be careful. I want to ask you, too, about animals. So, you're the only person.
Okay.
So, what?
Let's hear it.
No, just about the bear getting into your seek outside.
Oh, man.
Because that's what I was worried about. And it's not because it's just because I'm an anxious person and I worry. I'm a worrier, Mark can tell you. So, I'm at work all week when my seek outside set up 3 miles back, and I'm just like, bear's definitely getting into it. I'm going to lose my $1,000 tent. But you were saying it's not really an issue. You had it happen once.
I had it happen once in my seek.
Yeah.
So we, freeze dried meals. You got jerky. You got some other snack stuff, but it happens. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they get in there, but it seems like the seeks they don't get into. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest problem is trail cameras. Every time you hang a trail camera within an hour, where I hunt, within an hour,
bear's just chewing on it.
Bear is either smacking it or chewing it. So I said, anybody wants to bait a bear, you just hang a trail camera and walk off 100 yards away from them, trash your trail camera. But I really haven't. And where we hunt too, I believe most people are good, but there's always that one person that takes things a little too far and might take some stuff out of your tent. That's some of the biggest worries I have, more than a bear.
Right.
But where I've hunted,
you just set booby traps around your tent. Right?
I don't think we ought to do that either.
That's messing around. Definitely don't do that, guys.
But bears I really haven't had any issues in the tent with. Nice. Wall tents, especially when you used to cook, bacon and all your stuff in there, and they're gonna destroy your stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the common wisdom with that is just leave the flaps open so they can go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. Yep. Cook outside.
That's right.
When you are moving around though to different spots, do you have wood cut beforehand? Do you make sure you cut wood beforehand? I hate getting smoked out in the seek outside, so my advice would be to cut plenty of wood. But if you're moving, if you have like 4 spots you camp, do you actually make sure you cut the wood?
If you find some dead and down stuff, then you can stack it up for preseason. And a lot of the times, like that backcountry too, is just you're on the fly, and I'll just set up wherever, and you
Where
find
there's a dead tree. Yeah.
find a dead tree.
Yeah.
If it's dead, grab it. It'll still burn, but
Right.
it's that wet stuff that's been laying down that is going to get soaked. That's going to completely smoke you out of your tent. So,
Yeah,
Right.
it's,
and sometimes if you don't have it, you might have to just sit in your tent, sit in your sleeping bag. It is what it is.
Which
you
isn't
know?
that bad. I mean, it's.
No, I mean,
it's
I-
just bring a winter bag and you're good.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
beginning part of the year, you didn't even need that either. It was nice. Like I slept underneath a tree a couple times. You know, I was on the
Under the
on
stars.
the trail, just
Yeah.
running a track down, and gets late, and you don't want to go back, and you're too far in. Curl up underneath the tree with your, you know, I had carry a little tiny tarp with me anyways, and a little space blanket, and I got some wool clothes with me, and go to sleep for the night. And those were the best days of the Ranger too. You know, unexpected nights in the woods. It was like especially around here, you know, you'd walk from town to town, you'd go check, you know, 13, 14 interior camps, spend 2, 3, 4 days in the woods just traveling from camp to camp, talking to everybody, and
That's cool.
curl up underneath the tree, go to bed for the night, and
Yeah.
start your day the next day. It was awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I love the interaction with other hunters too. So
Yeah.
that's a cool part of it. You get to meet a lot of cool
And
people.
that's really good. It's, you know,
Yeah.
talking to these people and see how they're doing, and
Right.
just getting stories out of them. It's,
Yeah.
you know, having a ranger show up at your tent at night, it's not, you know, it's not the end of the world. If you're not doing anything wrong, you're fine, and we just want to talk to you and see how everything's going and make sure you're all right and
Yeah.
move on to the next person.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I got to go do a summary.
Yeah, we got to go skedaddle.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we
that
got to
was
do
awesome.
a follow up too, because you got so many stories. So
Yeah, we can talk all day.
yeah, we will at
Yeah.
some point. You gonna come to Huntstock this year?
Yes, I
York?
should be there.
All right, we'll get you back
Pending
on
any
then.
searches, rescues, anything
Yeah.
like that, we'll be there.
Yeah, because you didn't even tell your buck story from this year, so we'll have to get you back on at that point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
We got a lot of buck stories.
Yeah, no shortage here. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Let me see if I think of any other announcements. We're stocked with packs. Go grab a pack. Ian you use the small pack, right?
I do, but I have a 2-year-old and 3-year-old, so I just bought your large one because I know I'm going to be carrying a lot of their stuff around when they get older.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I just bought a large
It's
one.
good to have both, and I'm not just being a salesman. It's good to have both. They
I
serve
like to go
different
light and
functions.
fast, usually.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, thank you for listening, all you legends out there, and we'll see you next time.
Take care,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Adirondack Hunt Podcast. You can find more episodes at bigwoodsbucks.com. Check out bigwoodsbucks.com for the latest gear, including our famous American-made wool hunting jackets, wool hunting fanny packs, and wool hunting pants, along with books, tracking guides, and logo wear. See you next time.